Greetings, fellow armchair Imagineers. Tiki here.
And BlueDragonFive.
And welcome to the Main Street Cinema, the show where we discuss the finer points in filmmaking. And tonight we will be taking a look at the Hey Arnold movie as part of our retrospective Hey Arnold month. How you doing tonight, Dragon?
Nostalgic.
Oh yeah, man, oh man, Dragon. Let's just dive right into the nostalgia of it all. Okay, so this movie, Dragon. I'm gonna give you a trivia question. All right, don't look it up on Wiki. Dragon, can you name me one of three movies that came out on Hey Arnold the movie's opening weekend?
All right, let me think. Lilo and Stitch was was Lilo and Stitch 2001 or 2002?
Lilo and Stitch was the same year.
All right, so how many others?
There's two other big ones. Lilo and Stitch. I'm just gonna say you got Lilo and Stitch. That was the same day.
Well, the only other one I can really think of is Scooby Doo.
Correct.
So again, there's Lilo and Stitch. There's Scooby Doo. I'm at a loss for the other one.
Okay, can I give you a hint?
Sure, give me a hint.
Okay, the other one is it's a sci-fi movie, and it's done by a director that we have covered before.
Oh, geez, that narrows it down. All right. It's not Titan AE, right?
No, it's not Titan AE.
All right. Okay. It's not a Disney movie.
Nope.
Okay. Okay. Sci-fi movie. Is it animated?
Nope.
No, it's not animated. Okay, from
We've
2000.
covered it before on the podcast.
Wasn't one of the Star Wars movies, was it?
No, not one of the Star Wars. No.
Okay. Geez. Okay. I think so. Just, I got 2002 sci-fi. Good. Jeez. Like, how big we talking? Like, how big of a? How big was the competition?
Oh, you know what? We're wasting too much time on it.
I give up. Who? What was it?
It was Minority Report.
You could have said we did a commentary on it. Maybe
that was a big weekend for all four of these movies. Lilo and Stitch, I think, obviously for everyone, like for me at least. Come on, like I love Lilo and Stitch to death. It's one of my personal favorite Disney movies. And then Scooby Doo, I don't know, like Dragon, like obviously I think Hey Arnold kind of holds up a little bit better than Scooby Doo does. But hey, Scooby Doo was a James Gunn movie, so you got to give it some credit. So maybe one day we'll talk about the live action Scooby Doo movies.
To be fair, it was written by James Gunn. It wasn't directed by James Gunn.
Oh, okay, fair enough. But it does have kind of that James Gunn style going on, though. It does,
he had a different vision for that movie. Then, well, let's not get sidetracked. Okay.
And then Minority Report, I actually saw at Disneyland, Dragon, believe it or not, at Downtown Disney at the AMC when I was like 12 years old.
I still remember I had a theme park movie experience with Iron Man. That's how I first saw Iron Man. It was a great experience. It always contributes to why that Ironmonger scene always feels like a Universal ride to me, because I saw it at City Walk, and it was a beautiful theater in City Walk, I tell you.
Okay, so suffice to say, Dragon, like I saw Scooby-Doo, Lilo and Stitch, and Minority Report either before or during my trip to Disneyland, and then I saw Hey Arnold the movie after my trip to Disneyland.
And
I think that about sums up my whole experience with this movie. Like, it's really good. It's solid, but at the same time, and I feel like a lot of other fans feel the same way, it is kind of an afterthought. Like, it's well paced. A lot of characters get a lot to do. I really, especially I like the Helga storyline that we'll get into. I don't know. It's just like, I feel like this movie just kind of reeks of what it is, which is a 2-part TV movie stretched out to an hour and 15 minutes to put into theaters. So as a 2-part TV movie, I think it would have been really solid. I think it would have been like, hey, man, like I think it would have stood up with, with something like the pairing of Parents' Day and Arnold Saves the Neighborhood, or Parents' Day and The Journal. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, But here, it just, I don't know. It just, I feel like stretching it out into a movie is kind of like the thing that almost sort of makes it a little more awkward. I don't know. This is a weird enigma. I'm not saying it's bad by any means. I'm just saying.
I absolutely hear you on that. It is definitely this movie. It's like there's a lot of good in this movie, but there are definitely elements that definitely scream that, you know, under the right circumstances and like as a different thing, possibly this thing probably would have been better served. But that's kind of our thesis. I think it might be our joint thesis statement on this. I'm getting
gotcha. So why don't we transition to your thoughts then, Dragon?
Well, my nostalgia for it, quite simply, and this I really also feed into overall I feel about the movie, I guess, is that this movie it's very interesting. I remember this movie being everywhere. I remember there was a lot of hype around this on Nickelodeon, especially. But this movie, I mean, people knew this movie was coming out. This had a lot of advertising. I remember the. Do you remember particularly to pick your brain nostalgically for a moment?
Oh God!
Remember?
Okay.
They had an ad. It was an ad where basically they reenacted the bus scene. They reenacted two scenes, but it was children as Arnold, Gerald, and Helga. You know, like basically.
Dragon, I'm going to stop you right now. No, I don't remember it airing personally, but I have seen what you're talking about because I recently watched Old School Lane's review of this movie. And they worked that into their critique. Part of like the hyping it up.
But you know exactly what I'm talking about.
Shout out to them. Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about. Yeah, I'm just saying, like, personally, I don't remember that airing, but like then when I see it, it's like, oh yeah, okay, I could kind of see it. I don't know. You got to keep in mind, like 2002 was kind of when I was in middle school and kind of phasing out of Nickelodeon a little bit. So,
well, sure. And my point is, like, you know, they basically reenacted, for those who have not seen it, I recommend you check it out. Or again, a little plug here, Old School Lane, they do quality work over there, folks. Check them out.
Oh yeah.
But either or, my point is, you know, they reenacted, you know, like two of the landmark scenes. And honestly, this kind of ties in the background momentarily. We'll get into it very much. It kind of gives away two huge scenes in the movie, but at the same time, they're reenacted to hype it up. So going to this movie, I was pretty hyped. Oh my god, you know, it's going to be kind of the cinematic adventure of a show I really like on Nickelodeon, kind of making the big leap to the big screen. And in a way, you know, unfortunately, I wasn't quite present during when Mask of the Phantasm came out, but in a weird way, this movie is basically the well-publicized "What If" version of Mask of the Phantasm, where everyone would know that everyone knew that this was coming out. Where, of course, the Phantasm, which has a similar production, like kind of rushed production story, basically the whole TV movie to direct-to-video / TV movie to the big screen production. So it shares a lot in common with Phantasm.
I mean,
in that
to
regard.
be fair, Dragon, I am sure that Phantasm is a far better movie than this.
Well, I don't want to toot the animated series horn too much on that, but absolutely yes.
I'm just saying, like, I'll toss you a freebie there.
Sure, but you see what I'm saying? I thought it was interesting retroactively kind of looking at this movie and kind of considering that oh yeah, it's had kind of a similar story, but you know they had kind of more expectation, more kind of pressure on them going into it.
Dragon, if we want to talk about comparing an animated movie to Batman the Animated Series, I think the route we want to go down with that is the DuckTales movie, because it was written by the same person as we previously discussed. But that's a whole other podcast for a whole other day.
Sure. So my point is, I went into it hyped. I saw it in theaters, and again, based on that hype, I was like, okay, I love the show, and there's like doing some big stuff, and of course, teasing some big events, some big revelations. Like, oh, god, this must be an integral part of the series. I gotta check this out. Like, the neighborhood's in danger, and we got some Arnold Helga stuff brewing. I gotta see this. And you know, I enjoyed it at the time, but again, looking back on it years later, I did notice some chinks in the armor, and I did kind of like again, really looking at it analytically, kind of going back here. We're gonna talk about some stuff, to say the least.
And I even remember as a kid, like being like, okay, that was fun, but it wasn't quite, you know, like it wasn't memorable or grand the way that, let's say, you know, the Rugrats movies were, either Rugrats or Rugrats in Paris.
But it felt they were trying to capture that lightning in a bottle with it, though. It did feel like they were following that act.
It did, but I just feel like, I guess it's just the fact that those two Rugrats movies really had room to breathe in terms of their production schedule.
Yes, and you're right. I mean, those were pre-planned big events that they retroactively kind of worked into the shows. It wasn't the other way around.
Exactly. And I think that's kind of a problem, too, is that this feels like it's a little bit disconnected from the series. Don't you agree?
Yes.
Okay.
It basically has kind of a SpongeBob problem, which again we'll break down as we.
Well, I mean, I see what you're saying about the SpongeBob thing, but I think SpongeBob does it a lot better. But
I mean, you're right, Tiki. I'm just saying it's in the same. It's in the same. And one last bit of nostalgia is I'm a big thing for this movie because I'll never have another opportunity to bring this up. I've enjoyed my Game Boy games growing up. I've actually revisited a few of them. My little Game Boy Advance player. I had the Game Boy Advance game for this movie. I actually got to play through the movie. As you get to play as Arnold, Gerald, Helga, and Phil. Phil's levels are always kind of the funnest because you also get to toss tomatoes and you get
it'd be great if
again. It was
like a can he could bounce on like Uncle Scrooge in the DuckTales game.
The hoops they make you jump through. And again, it was like they're basically you could tell they're trying to kind of crank up the monotony and make it an adventure. Basically, the most extreme thing you could do was throw tomatoes. That was about it. But you had the climb up buildings, you had the jump off platforms. I think they ramped it out as much as they could. Like, of course, the most memorable thing for me, the reason I bring up this, basically you had to find the document. Of course, find the tomato incident document, and you got to go around and it's like it wasn't just like one page of document. You had to collect like individual pages of it. Apparently, it was a huge. Kind of Magna Carta sized, like pieces of document. It was ridiculous. There's always another. It's a reason. Like I will always, even if I had forgotten the movie, I always at least have a piece of the movie. With that game, it's always gonna be on my mind. Like, oh yeah, remember Arnold had a movie, of course. About the big tomato incident.
Oh God,
nostalgia with the movie in that regard.
All right, so Dragon, this movie has a very troubled production history, so why don't we break it all down?
Certainly. So, folks, we got to take you to Hey Arnold around the time of the fourth season. See, around the time of the going into the fourth season, I should say. So, they finished season 3. And, they're basically essentially up for renewal for season 4. And I'm getting a sense, and I can't verify every single details. And Tiki, if you know anything from the old school lane, I didn't really get to refresh with them going forward. So, if you got anything you'd like to share, by all means.
Okay, I'll jump in. I'll jump in if I think you've missed something, but
thank you. So around the time of the fourth season, I'm getting a sense that Nickelodeon, they were pushing for a movie again to capitalize on the success of the Rugrats movies, at the very least the first one at this point.
And also Jimmy Neutron, which came out the year before.
Certainly, yes, and you'll notice kind of a similarity in posters with Hey Arnold the movie and Jimmy Neutron, kind of your main character in the foreground, with everything else in the back, and of course our villain in the deep background. Similar marketing thing. Anyway, so it's around time the fourth season. Nick is planning way ahead, way in advance here. Basically, they're actually considering 2 movies. Basically, they're offering. Again, it's not like a threatening thing. It's like, hey, they asked Craig Bartlett if he would like to, be interested in doing a few movies for Hey Arnold. And of course, he says yes because be very interested. Now, traditionally animation, folks, when you have, I notice, especially with Batman Beyond, because in Batman Beyond they did Return of the Joker, an animated film, they were also doing the series at the same time. So when you pull this sort of thing in animation, traditionally they are worked on simultaneously while the season is currently in production. So that's why they have to plan this far in advance, and that's why this movie comes out around the time, I want to say, like, season, it'll come out like between 4 and 5. That's kind of where it's coming out, essentially, if not. It came out in 2002. They might have held it over for a year. If I can't quite recall that detail of it. But the point is, you're working on simultaneous.
No, they didn't hold it off for a year because it was a very rushed production. Because keep in mind, this was after Jimmy Neutron came out.
Yeah, you're right. Right. Well, my point is you're working on simultaneously, which is not helping with the whole kind of rushed mentality. You want to have this thing planned in advance, but they didn't plan it that far in advance. So it's coming out like while season 4 is going on, so it can be released either by the end of season 4, between season 5. That sort of.
Didn't it come out like in the middle of season 4?
That is entirely possible. Yes,
I want to say
they're trying.
I'm sorry, folks. I should have got that research done, but that's my best guess.
Yeah, I mean, the plan originally was, and this is Bartlett saw fit, and this is kind of known by a lot of people. The plan, for those who may not be aware, the plan was to do do this as a TV movie initially. It was going to be in 3 parts, believe it or not. It's going to be 3. Basically, it's like kind of how Buzz Lightyear Star Command's pilot worked. We have 3 episodes.
2 parts.
Well, Tiki, are you sure about it? Because I looked at it, they told me, I read 3 parts.
I'm pretty sure it was 2 parts. I mean, maybe someone in the audience could correct me, but I'm pretty sure it was supposed to be a 2-parter, like, like a... Basically, what it was is it was supposed to be like 2 half-hour episodes, like 2 like Parents' Day-sized episodes.
No, the weird thing is I heard that, but spread out for 3 because it's kind of like 3 20-minute segments making an hour.
Well, you see, like what I heard is that I'm sorry, folks, we're getting into semantics here, but what I heard, Dragon, is essentially that they had the 2-parter going on, and then when they decided to go theatrical, they needed to put like essentially a 3rd part to it. And honestly, from everything that I've heard about it, that 3rd part is kind of like all the spy stuff that Arnold and Gerald get into, and then that added character played by Jennifer Jason Leigh. I can't quite remember her name.
Bridget.
Yeah, right. I don't know, Dragon. Am I off about that? The fact that the spy stuff was kind of like the last-minute addition?
Well, that wouldn't surprise me, Tiki. I can't verify that, but that wouldn't surprise me. It feels tacked on. That wouldn't surprise me.
Okay, but
my point is,
basically, Dragon, what I'm saying, though, is... it basically, like I said, it started from the TV movie, the concept of like essentially stacking 2 half-hour episodes on top of each other, and then kind of go ahead.
Sure. The point is, it was going to be split up into something that would be aired on television, and definitely retroactive. It would be the reran. Then they would probably break it down as it went on to 3 or 2 or 3, and whichever we're breaking down. That's the point. Is it would be like. And the reason I was convinced it was 3 because basically they lined up to it being the 100th episode. That was kind of that's kind of from what I heard they were going for there. So basically, it'd be like it would lead them up to because Harold famously is like 99 episodes in a movie. We'll kind of amend that. So the point is, with these 2 movie plans, initially they're going to do Arnold Saves the Neighborhood, which again planned as a TV movie, and of course we've seen Nickelodeon kind of brings them other Nickelodeon TV movies like the Thornberrys, The Origin of Donnie, or the As Told by Ginger TV movies. Of course, not an unusual practice for Nickelodeon, which this would have been the first had it actually gone as planned. So anyway, so here's the big reason for the change, folks. The reason they didn't go forward as initially planned, again, kind of the old phantasm, like we're going to do a direct-to-video, then eventually we're going to go theatrical. Kind of did it for this. In this case, we're going to do a TV movie, but then they have some test screenings, and there's a lot of success in the test screenings of what they have so far. It's unclear if they're going to still work on movies, just what scenes they have. Most likely, kind of in that 2-part act break. I don't know how far they go along with it, but it wouldn't surprise me. Point is, they do some test screenings, a lot of success, and of course, with the success of the Rugrats theatrical release, they kind of say, okay, let's do this one theatrically too. So Nickelodeon kind of pulled a switch of what the game plan was to do the Jungle movie as the theatrical release down the line to follow that. Jungle movie was always there. They were planning Jungle movie, and of course, the Parents' Day of it all. That was in the works, but it was going to be saved for for the end, and ideally, it was going to be a theatrical release. And of course, basically, eventually we get a big switcheroo happens where, okay, we're going to release Arnold Saves the Neighborhood as Hey Arnold the movie theatrical, and then eventually we'll do Jungle movie as a 2-part TV movie, which of course now, roughly 17 years later,
we're finally getting that in exactly the same format that they promised.
It only took, roughly, again, almost more than a decade to do. All right, let's see. So, of course, production began around. Production from what I hear began around 2001. For the 2002 release. Again, they don't have a lot of time to work on. I want to say it was roughly 9 months they had to work on it, but again, just the advertising and everything kind of took them to 2002.
Right.
Now, infamously, the film was underwhelming to the critics and to the box office. And interestingly, they made their money back, but here's why it was a disappointment financially. It was a disappointment financially by Nick's standards because Nickelodeon, foolishly, from what I hear, the way it goes, that Paramount spent most of the return. So the movie did well enough. It did well enough. I mean, it didn't lose money in the gross, but it lost money because Paramount spent most of their return on advertising and
they gave it a pretty ridiculous marketing push that it probably didn't really need.
And that's the reason it's a flop. It's not because, again, people were hyped for this movie, and I mean, it was almost, again, in part it was advertising well spent, but again, it just, in their eyes, like, oh god, we spent so much money on this, and it just barely what we had. Guys, which is why financially is kind of looked to as a flop, despite the numbers not exactly reflecting that. It's a little fun fact. And of course, a big reason for why it probably could have performed better is it was up against some stiff competition, Tiki and I have outlined, with Minority Report, and especially in the animation front, Lilo and Stitch, and of course, Scooby-Doo.
Yeah, Scooby-Doo was a big one, man. Scooby-Doo was the contender that year. Hey, Dragon.
Yes.
2002 was the summer of Six Flags and the Scooby-Doo movie.
Oh God, I can only imagine the chaos.
I'm just quoting a marketing campaign that's just lodged in my memory from that summer. It's the summer of Six Flags and the Scooby-Doo movie. Okay. So, Dragon, should we get started then?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, we get the gist of it, right? I mean, again, there was trouble production, which is why the movies kind of looked to infamously in the return, because again, it was kind of a rushed. Yeah, I think we covered it well enough, right?
Alrighty, folks. Well, anyone who's watching this movie with us, go along and get your timestamp to 000. And if you do not have a copy of this movie but just want to hear our thoughts on it, I think we're going to do a pretty good job this time around of, just keeping it a conversation, because I think there's a lot of overall talking points in this one. So it'll be a pretty good podcast one way or another, Dragon. I think we're pretty determined to do that. So without further ado, Dragon, you ready to go?
When you are.
All right, folks, I will count up to 3 and then press play when I say go. All right, let's do it. Hey, Arnold, the movie in 1, 2, 3, go!
So, Tiki, something we should just kind of prepare for right off the bat, because this is one of the really eye-catching moments in the movie for me, especially on the rewatch. I still love this moment to this day, Tiki. I think it's one of the most memorable parts of the movie. I mean, there are a lot of good, memorable parts of this movie, but the one that always gets me is we have this beautiful cinematic build with these stills of the neighborhood coming up, and it's just this. And by the way, a little fun fact I kind of forgot to mention.
That Nickelodeon movies logo in theaters. I just want to point that out.
Sure. A fun little fact. I mean, this opening that we had that's playing out here. It kind of spotlights the Arnold's Neighborhood, which is something I always loved, and I love that the music here is really kind of it's haunting and cinematic. And Jim Lang, because of the kind of the sped up production, he had to out of his own pocket to get a full orchestra for this film to kind of get it to have that great cinematic build. And in this scene, I think it pays off.
You know what it kind of reminds me of? It actually sort of reminds me of
the Brave Little Toaster, huh?
Well, I mean, yeah, sure, Brave Little Toaster, yes, but I was going to go to the Christmas episode.
Oh, I mean, sure.
The way that it showcases the neighborhood and it showcases different locations, and it has the credits over kind of like a wistful, sad melody.
That's also good. Yeah, probably a better example, sure. No, but seriously, it does have that haunting quality of Toaster to me in that opening there. But again, seriously, I love this opening. Again, it kind of refreshes us on Arnold's Neighborhood, and in many ways, Tiki, and there's another kind of thing to kind of look at with this movie. Is this movie, it's kind of going for a Peanuts movie, but with Arnold. If on the rewatch here, it's kind of occurred to me that again we do recycle some Hey Arnold plots all throughout this movie, and of course we have these little refreshers with our characters. I mean, everyone shows up, and I thought it was kind of interesting.
Yeah, I mean, I really don't think it's as successful as some of the latter aforementioned movies, for lack of a better term, with Lego and Peanuts and whatnot, but it gets the job done. I mean, that is one of the complaints I have about this movie, to tell you the truth, is that I feel like the screen time for the characters, and I think this is a thing that they've been talking about, they've kind of been hyping up with the Jungle movie, is that they acknowledge that in the original movie, the characters, well, yeah, Dragon, they're still all there, and they get a line or two here and there just to remind us of their existence. The Jungle movie is going to have it's going to be an ensemble movie through and through. So, I think, while it's fun to see cameos and whatnot, I think that's something we can track going into the Jungle movie, is how much better the ensemble cast is going to be. But you know who works good in the ensemble cast, Dragon? Mr. Green.
Yeah, good old Mr. Green.
I mean, Mr. Green, seriously, like he's a great kind of like voice of the neighborhood in terms of like, Dragon. I'm sure you remember this in the trailer where it's just it's so ominous. It's like Mr. Green. It's like he's watching the TV and it's like that guy's gonna shut down the whole neighborhood.
Now, Tiki, speaking of that, I'm in total agreement. You know how much I love Mr. Green, and we have some great scenes with him.
Seriously, how ominous was that in the trailer, man?
It was very ominous. Now, speaking to that threat for a moment, I like to again one of my favorite parts of that opening that kind of connects with the danger of the movie. Future tech industries. I love the introduction of future tech industries with kind of these bulldozers with kind of this unified logo on it. And again, the main toaster-esque flourish I guess I was trying to hit on was when we go to this building, at the end, like everyone's playing in the summer essentially, and then of course we have that building go down and like demolish. And it's like it kind of shakes us from the familiarity we have of Arnold. It's a great introduction for the thread of the film.
Oh yeah. All right, so what do we think about Paul Sorvino as Shek?
He's one of my favorite parts of this movie.
He's great. I think he's one of those things where it's like people don't remember how fun he is. You know what I mean?
Yeah, well, I love that opening. If I had to sing out just one thing, Shek would be it for me. Shek is the most memorable part of this movie for me. I think he's great. The design's really cool. I mean, I love that he holds up when I rewatch this movie. I mean, he holds up as being the kind of this creepy, yet again, he's just
I feel like
he's kind of creepy yet charming.
That shines on a rewatch. I feel like he's the type of character where when you first see him, he kind of just feels like, oh yeah, okay, I get it. He's the corporate, like he wants to have money. And yeah, that's what he is. But I feel like the whole characterization of him is sort of sort of a parody of those types of villains. You know what I mean? And I think that's what makes him fun.
And again, I just think Sorvino's performance, of course, Paul Sorvino from Goodfellas, folks, the great the Paul Cicero from Henry Hill's mentor from Goodfellas. He's a great part of that movie. He's also just such a good actor and so many other things. But I'm just saying they cast it perfectly with for Shek. And TK, got to tell you, rewatching the movie kind of with more analytical view over a nostalgic view. I did notice something that kind of ate away at me, and it really bugs me rewatching the movie. The logic of Shek's plan does not hold up at all.
No, not at all.
And folks, I hate to burst your nostalgic bubbles, but think about it for a moment here.
It's okay, Dragon. I feel like even though it's hardened, hey, Arnold fans acknowledge this isn't the finest. Like, this isn't Arnold versus Iggy, but it's not Pigeon Man either. So, it's kind of rests in kind of a nice middle ground there. But go ahead.
Very simply, folks, the problem, the central flaw of the film is this: that Shek can't really do this. And one, it's that basically it's so. It seems like, I don't mean just to put the movies rush. I'm just saying, like in the plot in this movie, it happens awfully fast that again Shek can have this deal where basically he can bulldoze all these homes and businesses, basically the whole block, the whole neighborhood.
I'm telling you, Dragon, that's why I think that the added stuff was Arnold and Gerald like breaking into the the building the second time and getting that footage. Like I'm thinking in the original two-parter they would have just gotten the document and they wouldn't have needed the video.
Yeah, my issue is that it feels like a non-issue when you think about it, Tiki. Just think about this. Everyone could just say, no, we're not selling our buildings, which means, no, you can't demolish our buildings. Tiki, all they have to do is say no, and then the movie's over.
Yeah.
That's the problem. I mean, don't get me wrong. Look, I appreciate the sense
I mean, by that logic, Dragon, it's a cartoon. You know what I mean? So it's like we have to give it some sort of leeway.
I mean, Tiki, again, at the time, it didn't occur to me, and it was perfectly fine under that logic, yes, but I'm just saying this, the simplest level of screwing, just what if they say no? That's a problem.
All right, well, you know what isn't a problem, Dragon?
Models.
Well, yes, models, but also Big Bob Pataki.
Yes. However, you know what's funny? They changed his hair color. I'm convinced just for that one scene in the movie. Which I just said it stuck out to me even as a kid. It's like, why is Bob's hair different?
Seriously, how great is Big Bob in this movie?
He is great.
He has a really good redemption arc. Spoiler alert.
He does. And by the way, I love this model so much. I love it. It's so to scale and wonderful.
It's so Cusco-esque.
Tiki, I want this model so bad. And of course, this is fun here. What we do with, of course, Helga, willing to basically we're recycling the Save the Tree episode with the Big Bob plot here, quite literally with the same character, Bob's construction guy being looped into it, Nick Vermicelli.
Of course, Dan Castellaneta sort of pulling another role there.
Mm-hmm. And again, returning role too. I like the sense of continuity. A lot of these guys are coming back. And again, Tiki, I'm not saying it's done to the best of its ability here, but it's just something to kind of note that I don't think it necessarily kills the movie that we recycle all these old Hey Arnold episodes, because it feels kind of familiar and it just feels like.
No, hey, I agree, Dragon. That's actually a good thing for this movie. Is that like speaking to your Peanuts movie point, I feel like when we go to locations like Mr. Bailey's office, for example.
Exactly. Yeah.
Because, of course, the great thing about Hey Arnold, the thing that everyone loves it for, I think the thing that really stands up is the world building, and therefore it really does make sense to have a movie that's all about preserving the literal world that is Hey Arnold.
Yeah, I mean, there are also a lot of deep cut references in this as well. We're celebrating the rich continuity and just kind of the rich history of Hey Arnold with this. Because, like, for example, it happened already, but, we referenced Eugene Goes Bad with the fact that he's dressed as, his Schwarzenegger
yes.
hero. Of course, being obsessed with singing as well. Not one of Eugene's. I gotta tell you, so again, T, you spoke to this earlier. I just want to kind of put this out there again. A big flaw in the reason people, I think it's a unified. I think it's a unified gripe we all have with this movie is that we underutilize our side characters, and the reason I bring it up again, Tiki, because you already made that point well, but
does Phoebe even have a line in this movie?
I really don't think so.
And the funny thing about that, Dragon?
What?
It's the thing that's bothered me since childhood, and I'm sure a lot of other people. Her jacket is colored yellow instead of blue on the frickin' poster. You can see it right there.
Yep. You're right.
And she's just like standing out like a sore thumb.
Oh God, you're right. I mean, everyone's miscolored in this post. Like half the characters on the left side, Sid, he's wearing a blue and brown pants. He's all
right. Oh man.
And look, there's Iggy. Iggy has no bearing on this movie whatsoever. But now we're talking about the poster. We're getting off track here, folks.
I mean, I think I'd put Stinky in the poster over Iggy. I mean, Stinky had a couple standout moments.
Oh yeah, oh my God, you're right. Stinky's not in there. Why is he not in there?
Yeah, but Iggy is somehow.
Oh, he had that nice moment again.
I mean, Brainy, I'd agree with, because Brainy has a couple fun bits, but
okay. But getting to the Stinky point real quick is that we do have these great moments where again we build up kind of the reason we should care about the neighborhood when we're going around, and of course we check in Mr. Green, we check in with Stinky and Sid for a moment, reflecting on the handprints they made and when they wrote their names.
That's one of my favorite details, Dragon. That feels like something out of the show. It's really organic.
Exactly, Teak, and that's kind of the heart of the movie in many respects. Again, that's
sorry, didn't want to pass it up. Sorry, go ahead.
But you see what I mean, though. Again, that's bringing kind of the heart of the show to in a cinematic capacity and representing well. That's why I think the movie's kind of operating on all cylinders to an extent.
So I guess going off of your Peanuts movie thing, Dragon, which I think is kind of a driving point of the conversation here. I feel like the Block Party plot line almost feels like the World Record episode.
Yeah, and also just kind of like, what we do here, while we use these characters very minimally, we do kind of, for example, with Rhonda. Rhonda, she's the one who she's complimenting Arnold and kind of the fabulousness of the idea. It's kind of represent her character, and also just the fact that, hey, let's throw a party. Mm-hmm. She's kind of putting it out there. Of course, Rhonda had the cool party. We're having like kind of these little, again, we're having these deep cut references here and there with these characters. But again, well, just to circle back fully to some of the stuff here with Eugene, for example, there's a big bit that Harold actually kind of, we'll get to it. Harold kind of leads a big event in the third act, let's say. He does something that's very inconsequential. It kind of has some cool ramifications.
Yes.
And that honestly felt like tailor-made for Eugene's clumsiness to execute instead of Harold.
Yeah, I don't know. I think it would fit either way. We'll talk about that more when we get to it.
I'm saying, like, Eugene doesn't get into a single accident in this movie. That feels kind of out of character.
So, what's weird, Dragon, is something that's always stood out to me about this movie is that I feel like while the side kids might get shafted a little bit, the borders definitely shine in this movie.
You're right about that. Yeah, the borders, our adults are well represented.
Absolutely, absolutely. So I guess, in this scene, we have a lot going on. It's just nice visual things with, like Lila getting dunked into the tank and Stinky and Sid behind the camera and everything like that.
Yeah. You wonder if there's a meta thing with Lila being dunked in the tank. I wonder if that's.
I'm sure there is. I'm sure there is.
And just being this, I love this scene. This is the detail. Every character you see in this movie is from the show, and I really love that detail.
It's very Simpsons in that way.
Yes, yeah, it's again, it's that rich kind of well of characters to pull from. It doesn't feel like a model dump. We're just pulling because we need characters. It feels like we're pulling because this is the world of our characters.
Sure.
And also, let's see. So one of my favorite devices in the movie, and I'm pretty sure we've set it up already, and it's going to pay off in that Harold scene. I was kind of hyping up there. At least in my favorite image in the movie. I love Shekovision. Basically, this visual reminder, like this ticking clock measure that we had during this montage of getting the block party ready, where Shek is like basically have this running thing of change is good, kind of the eerie pulse.
I like how we have the metaphorical death of Shek via Shekovision at the end of the movie.
I know that's my favorite.
Yeah, we'll get there. We'll get there.
That was the most. That is the Tiki. That is the single. You're gonna. Hence why Shek is like. I'm so tied in the Shek of this movie because that was the most haunting image from this movie for me. That last.
Shekovision is basically like Dragon. If you've played Zelda Majora's Mask, it's basically like the angry moon looming over the town.
Right, but seriously, as an image, I love it as well because it's kind of progress, kind of daunting the neighborhood. And look at the poster; it represents kind of Shekovision. It's kind of daunting our neighborhood, which is ingrained in the past. And we spent episodes of Arnold, the old building episode, which again, this movie takes a lot from the old building episode. With the whole Dino Spumoni.
It's almost kind of like Gatsby-esque in a way.
Yes, and again, it's representation of progress versus the people and kind of the history of a neighborhood.
Hey, movie, you're foreshadowing showing.
Does it bother you, or do you go with the foreshadow of the bus game?
I don't know. It kind of bothers me a little bit how specific it is.
I don't know. I mean,
like it's literally a bus driving simulator.
You're right about that, but at the same time, I think it's logic enough.
You know what I think bothers me about it so much is the marketing campaign where we knew that bus thing was going to be like a major plot point. Like, that was one of the things they were hyping the movie on. And so to see Gerald playing a literal bus simulator, like even as a 12-year-old watching the movie, I was like, okay, movie, I get what you're doing. All right.
You're right about that, Tiki, but at the same time, I think it's a good explanation for why Gerald's able to do what he does later.
All I'm saying is, like, just make it a generic car racing game. It doesn't have to be a bus game. It would have had the same sort of plot relevance.
And here's the scene we were kind of touching on.
I love the detail of Sid and Stink, and that the lack of the why makes it more unique.
Yeah, and they were being chased off for kind of doing something they weren't supposed to. And again, this is kind of the great, again, the human touch here, where Arnold's kind of connecting with the neighbors, and we're spending time with.
Seriously, Stinky should really have a role on the poster over Iggy. With
really
like this, really.
Hey, remember Iggy, that character people hated so much? All it takes is one bad episode in Hey Arnold, folks, and you'll end your Hey Arnold career.
Oh God. Okay, I love this scene with Mr. Green, and God, I want to see a whole episode of this.
This scene, Tiki on the rewatch, just still breaks my heart every time.
Right.
Tiki, you know me. I'm a sucker for history, especially history within buildings with the whole Scott Snyder Batman of it all here. But seriously, this sequence here about the history.
That sequence lasted, what, like 30 seconds?
Yes, but oh my God.
Like the montage of Mr. Green, like, going from a little kid to his father handing the store over to him.
That image of Mr. Green's father handing him the hat.
Yeah.
But seriously, with that too, it kind of reminds me of one of my favorite.
That was like almost kind of like Married Life. You know what I mean? Just like the economics of the time and the imagery.
Cosgrove shed a tear at a man bonding with another man over meat. He really did.
And of course, it goes back to Harold the Butcher.
I know, as I was getting at, one of my favorite episodes.
So, Dragon, I think what we're getting at here with the references is that it's not directly on the nose, like, hey, remember Harold the Butcher? But it's more kind of like, remember the themes of Harold the Butcher. You know what I mean?
Also, we have a reference, by the way, that Mr. Green has a son who we've never met. The vegetarian, as the son is the vegetarian.
All right, so I think we need to bring up the fact that Grandma is in jail, because that's kind of a pivotal element of the movie.
Tress MacNeille, she always delivers. We put her in jail. We put Grandma in jail, and she's the big action.
Dragon, Grandma in this movie is like straight out of frickin' Looney Tunes, and it's delightful.
We literally do Shawshank Redemption with Gertie. It's great. Oh, by the way, it's already passed, but just because it's still like it's an Arnold Phil scene. I love that it's not in our face, but I like that it was mentioned. It kind of made me kind of think about it on the rewatch that Grandpa, he points out, kind of like passing, but he does point out Arnold does have stakes here. If the boarders have to leave the neighborhood, if they lose this building, Arnold's going to be he'll have to go into foster care.
Yeah, and that, like, honestly, I think that's probably the biggest stakes of any Nickelodeon movie. I mean, pending Jimmy Neutron, because Jimmy Neutron has the whole alien invasion thing going on, but
a whole giant alien chicken, though.
Right. But I mean, like, like, I'd say that's bigger stakes than either of the Rugrats movies, at least.
Sure, but Tiki, I mean, look at the impressive thing is that it's not in our face. It's there, but it's not the main.
Sure.
That just shows you, like, hey, folks, we got some big cars. We're not going to play these cars, but we have them. Of course, the tomato incident. Tiki, I love this line.
I like that cocky attitude, Dragon.
But Tiki, I love this, by the way, the continuity here. And again, this shows that they know what they're doing a lot of time during this. And again, they were rushed, but they were still doing. They were working as much as they could during this. Tiki, the fact that they mentioned the tomato incident was after the pig war.
Right.
Again, I love those little details. The whole the British.
Hey, see, the tomato incident and the like the history of the town. That's all the stuff that I feel was in the original drafts of the movie, Dragon. That's all the stuff that I feel like Craig Bartlett really wanted to explore. And again, like I said, I don't really know the full details on what he wanted to put in and what was added in last minute, but I'm getting the sense of that. Like, it's very Scott Snyder-esque. You know what I mean?
And another thing, Tiki, is you gotta imagine this does feel very TV movie-esque. All of this does. So I think you're absolutely, Tiki, I think you're very right about that theory. Because it just feels like, again, this is small scale enough for a TV movie that feels still true to Arnold. It doesn't feel like we're reaching for it doesn't feel like we're trying to impress. Like, okay, we gotta fill time. We gotta do something. Because like, I would imagine the studio might have been pushing for a little bit more action. Hey guys are doing a big movie, more action.
Right, perhaps that bus scene was added on.
I don't know, because then again, while I say that, Tiki, the only thing that gives me pause on that is the fact, of course, with Arnold's parents. I mean, we've gotten some adventure in Hey Arnold from time to time, so it's unclear.
Yeah,
but it does feel. I think in the marketing just given the marketing, we hyped up that bus scene so much that feels like it's our big die-hard scene of the movie. We gotta we gotta amp it up. And again, just folks, I gotta call him. Last time I'll mention again, just this whole literally he can't bulldoze a neighborhood unless they sell, because that would be like they own these properties. They own these properties and these small businesses. There's no way he could. You can't just buy it. That's not how bulldozing a neighborhood works.
I mean, what are you gonna do, Dragon? It's just cartoon logic for you. It's just in your face like that. Can't just ignore cartoon logic.
I mean, like the thing with Arnold's, like again, basically we'd have the Up dilemma of if the original plot of Up would have kind of shown that basically when we had the threads, like every building got torn down, turned into a mall because Shrek's building a mall, and had Shrek built the mall, basically Arnold, like one building on the block would be surrounded by kind of all this futurism, which was the thread of Up, and of course in some drafts, like okay, we had it built, and then just like with the one singular building, which of course just wouldn't be really interesting. So of course that's why we have to say everyone had. It's like such an all-inclusive thing like that. Now here, this is kind of a fun playing with the cinema here. I love that we've never duplicated the same shrine to Arnold. I always respected that about the show. And this is one of my favorites because
this is a good way to sort of like amp up the scale from the show. You know what I mean?
I love that she has velvet ropes. I love that she has like the velvet ropes around the display. I love that.
Because of course, like the original shrine that we saw was the closet, and then
and I love that she like a secret like entry from the closet. She's like a bat cave built in the attic, essentially.
Right. And like I said, that's a fun kind of like it's a good way to do a Krusty Krab 2 type location. You know what I mean?
Right. And guys, I love the fact that like she's preserving it for posterity's sake, even though it's like a secret shrine that she will never display to anyone. It's pride in it.
Oh god.
Now I will say this, Tiki, and this is an issue I have, and this is kind of tying in. It's like tying into the spy thing a little bit, but something to point out because we do this scene a couple times. I think it's one of the flaws in the movie. We kill momentum because usually in Hey Arnold, what we do is okay, Arnold and Gerald get an idea like, okay, we're gonna go visit Mr. Bailey, and then we just go to Mr. Bailey. Now I'm not counting the bus stuff in that. I'm just saying like these scenes where they're bumping into Helga and we have to reestablish exactly what they said they're gonna do. We do that a couple times.
I think that's just a way to kind of cram Helga into the movie and like work in the Helga, Gerald, and Arnold dynamic before the big reveal in the third act. You know what I mean? I think that's really just the point of those scenes. Yeah. I'm not saying they're the most thrilling. I'm just saying kind of they work from just a pure economic point of view.
I bring it up because a lot of people, when they look at this movie, they really have issues with the first act. A lot of people say the first act kind of bores them, but they love the spy stuff on, which I think is interesting. I'm just saying that's what I've heard a lot of people say about the movie in retrospect.
Yeah, honestly, for me, I really like the first act and the third act, but the spy stuff is what kind of gets me out of it a little bit. But we'll get into that.
Yeah, I think I'm pretty much simpatico with you on that. From I mean, I think some of the the border stuff is also cool, but again, that's just kind of sparse throughout. So,
anyways, how wonderful is it to see Mr. Bailey?
Yes, and of course, you don't forget the same voice actor as the Pigeon Man.
Right. Now, this guy was connected to one of Dragon and I's favorite episodes, again, along with Pigeon Man. The Christmas episode, of course.
Yes. Such a shame that actor passed away.
Yeah.
He was in a lot of stuff. He was like kind of the great kind of cameo artist. He showed up in like every movie. He's actually in Man on the Moon when we get to that one of these days. He's actually in that movie. All right. But yes, the Dolly Donuts thing, kind of the clearable version of Dunkin'.
I like how that's kind of like a plot device that we use a lot in this movie is, everyone has one thing in the neighborhood that they can't get rid of.
Yeah. Oh, by the way, just because he's passed, but he will be very integral to the plot. What do you think of Murray? Craig Bartlett as Murray the bus driver.
He's a lot of fun. Like, honestly, he kind of reminds me of bus drivers that I've known in sort of a good way, where it's like, he's not necessarily a bad guy, but he's seen it all in the business, and, he's just going to tell it like it is, and he's not going to take any scuff from any, hold on, Dragon, let me get the line ready, let me get the line ready, any arrogant youth.
The arrogance of youth.
The arrogance of youth.
Okay. But Bartlett again. I love when he gets a character he can riff with. When he can riff on a character like that, and I think it just plays into his sensibilities really well.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
There's a guy with city experience, Bartlett. That's what he infuses to a lot of the characters he gets like that. Oh yes, we're at the City Morgue, and here we have a special character for the movie, voiced by a very notable actor. So we meet the mortician, the coroner, more accurately. Played by the wonderful, he's coming up, and building a reveal, building suspense. Black cats, ooh, scary. We have the coroner played by the wonderful Christopher Lloyd.
Yeah, this was kind of a surprise, Dragon. I keep forgetting that Christopher Lloyd is in this movie.
He's kind of doing his hacker voice. I don't know if you've ever seen Cyber Chase, Sticky.
Scooby doing the Cyber Chase?
No, different Cyber Chase. The TV show.
I'm sure you get that confusion all the time.
Yeah. But at this point, he has this great kind of aristocratic, over-the-top villain. It sounds identical to this voice, and it's great. It's not just hacker. Like he always corrects people saying it's the hacker. It's just great. Anyway, but So what do you think of the coroner segment?
I mean, he's fun, but I think he illustrates kind of a problem that you said, Dragon, is that it's like in this movie, we're getting a lot of side quests. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and again, this kind of plays into the kind of the
Right.
stuff
So
from
while
the game.
like, hey, yeah, it's Christopher Lloyd, awesome. Like, you know, he can be fun for a couple minutes. Like I said, Dragon, there's kind of a reason why I've seen this movie like maybe 4 times now, and each time I go back to it, when Christopher Lloyd pops up, I always have to go like, oh yeah, Christopher Lloyd's in that. I totally forgot.
And again, I mean, Lloyd, I love his delivery on this. Of course, Lloyd always has excellent delivery. And the main reason they got Christopher Lloyd, I would imagine, is that Christopher Lloyd is the master of exposition. He's the original expositor, of course, with Doc Brown, one of the best kind of expositors in the business.
Of course.
Out on the peninsula. It almost looks like he's like. It's always like you have like this bizarre. This when the corner smiles at the end, when his mouth kind of becomes elongated like that, it's just kind of so wonderfully.
I will admit that it's a very nice note for him to go out on.
It always looks like he's been eating like banana split, and they got the whole banana somehow. It's always just
sort of like Vincent Price in a way.
In a way, yeah. Of course, we have, and I love this, like how it eclipses the sun here. I love how the future tech industry is kind of pyramid building.
Yeah, I like how it's out in the middle of nowhere too.
Yeah. Now we have a great scene coming here. This is the real one of the big scene stealers for Shek. This scene here, well, coming up. I mean, you know, it's just when we eventually meet Shek. That's where Sorvino really gets the shine with his creepiness, but also his his very solid performance. And of course, again, this very much feels like the Mr. Arnold. It feels like an Arnold Gerald adventure, not a Hardy Boys adventure necessarily. A little bit of that later on with the whole spy angle, which of course is love. The Arnold Gerald adventures, but in this case, it's it's like when they have to do the stuff for Mr. Smith. They have to get the hat. They have to run the errands. They have to kind of sneak in the buildings and get kicked out. It's kind of from freeze frame a little bit.
And at the end of the day, Dragon, that's Arnold and Gerald really, that is the heart of the show. You know what I mean? So mix it in with the Helga stuff, and they're not wrong to focus all the attention on those 3.
Yeah. Look how this cracks me up. Life is just a bowl of cherries. That is just such a great. I love the design of Shek. I love how he's kind of he's big in the shoulders, yet he kind of comes down to like kind of a cone shape.
Yeah.
It's such an intimidating design. He's got the bags under his eyes and everything, kind of the bird-like nose. It's like, oh, it's great. And this is where Sorvino, and years later, still holds up this scene here where he's tearing the security guard down, and basically what he's doing here, it's so creepy and so wonderful. He's so likable in this role, in places where basically he's showing off to the boys, saying, "Hey, look, I'm the boss, but I'm going to tear the guy that kind of said you couldn't enter down a little bit." It's like he's trying to educate them, and you got to run a firm business, boys. Essentially, it's kind of what he's doing here. You got to show him who's boss.
And Gerald's running gag of you got to admit the man does have a good dress code.
Howard Hamill would approve of this, man.
Oh God, yes, he would. Oh my God, those two would be such good friends, Dragon.
With the design, Tiki, I gotta imagine this has to be intentional. Because tell me you don't see this when I say it here. Doesn't he look like Reagan?
A little bit, yes.
Tell me, come on, yeah. Doesn't he look? He looks like Reagan. That always struck me looking back at it too. That's why I had to bring it up. He does look a lot like Reagan. Like the most intimidating Ronald Reagan you've ever met.
Right.
Anyway, again, I love this scene here where he's kind of commending the boys on their attention to to research. But again, he's playing them off like the ultimate businessman in this scene here, where again he's
bringing them to his level. You know what I mean? He's not talking down to them as children.
I know, and I think that's so interesting to get. That's a great kind of. That's what I think makes Shek stand out. The way he's so kind of quirky like that. It's that he's not conventional in that regard, and at the same time he's serving his own business interests, and but it's like he's saying terrible things, but he's putting such a positive spin on it. Like he says change is good. He's got such kind of an enticing way of speaking. It's just he's always like this. He's always working on the sales pitch. Change is good. It is creepy, but at the same time it's kind of reassuring with that Sorvino delivery, right?
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
God.
Sorry, we're laughing at Big Bob right now.
Yes, yes. Oh man.
By the way, back
my favorite, one of the biggest laugh out loud moments for me is Bob's like dismissal of like, hey Bob, you know, a football headed kid.
I'm so glad you brought that up. He doesn't know the thing. He doesn't know anything about Arnold. This is the fact that Bob never retains anything in the episodes he appears in with Arnold. He's tried to bribe Arnold. He's tried to take down his tree. He's played, golf against his grandfather.
Enough because he's talking to Dan Castellaneta. It kind of reminds me of the Mr. Burns and Homer dynamic a little bit.
God. Yeah, I think it's like, called him Orphan Boy. He does not retain anything about
I know, right? Like, wouldn't it have been a great pull if Bob was like, you mean that little orphan kid?
Yeah, he's nothing about this kid, despite the fact he's always kind of foiling him.
But of course, in the midst of that, he's just playing Godzilla with his little model.
Yes, and of course, Bob just deep down he wants to be kind of a giant green monster of some variety. Yeah, deep down.
Deep down.
Speaking of deep, we have deep voice.
Bob, only Hulk.
Okay, but speaking of deep, we have deep voice here. Now, Tiki, I don't know about you, but I'm just given the fact one of our characters looks vaguely like Ronald Reagan, just kind of the politicos of this movie. I like to think that deep voice, okay, you gotta love a good Watergate reference. I don't know about the kids today, but yeah, I enjoy a good Watergate reference.
Oh, no question. Well, what can I say, Dragon? Hey, Arnold's always been on the up and up about the adult humor. They do it in a respectful way.
They have. Of course, Arnold laying out the big plan. Basically, I want to say at the end, like when they go to bed here, that's when Act 2 gets kicked off, I guess.
I would say so, yes, because, of course, everything's been established. We have
definitely when they leave Shek's office. Earliest I could put it is be that when they leave Shek's office. That's definitely, that's Act 1 ends at Shek's office to a large degree.
All right.
So yes, of course, we give reference to the ever so mysterious fuzzy slippers.
Oh, Dragon, of course, you and I talked about, like, if they had him in the Jungle movie, all we need to see is the slippers, folks.
Yeah. Kind of the mysterious Huggy Bear of the Heron universe. So now we meet Bridget. Now, Tiki, you have anything you want to say about Bridget? Because I know you really like the. Well, I know you like. I don't know how much you really like.
Yeah, I do really like Jennifer Jason Leigh. Just the character, like Jennifer Jason Leigh does as good a job as she can with the character. Like she's great in everything. Like I kind of have a crush on Jennifer Jason Leigh, Dragon. I won't deny it, but
you know me. I have my own.
Right. But the character herself, I don't know. I think all the spy stuff is kind of where the movie goes off the rails just a little bit. I mean, Dragon, I know you like your gadgets, so I'm curious to hear what you have to think about this.
Tiki, you know me, as big of a gadget fan as I am, I'm in complete agreement with you. The spy section feels honestly
it's Cars too, goddammit.
Okay, I wouldn't go that far with it. Come on. My point is,
I wouldn't either.
My point is, it feels. I think the analogy I have is that it's a little above Arnold's pay grade. It feels out of place. It feels like this is.
Yeah, exactly.
Again, it feels like we need a device that, like some of these gadgets, I could kind of get, like obviously like the remote control car. That feels like I could buy that. I could buy the gum. I could buy some, but then doing a makeshift spy thing, like buying like a spy kit from a toy store, then retrofitting with some other stuff. I could buy that. But this, having like kind of a mysterious spy connection that shows up for 2 scenes in the movie, and just getting it's 2 scenes, I would completely buy that. It's definitely added material.
I hate how much they focus on it in the trailer too, Dragon. That's one of the things I remember as a kid.
Now, speaking of 2002, I mean,
yes,
come on, Men in Black 2, obviously.
Oh God, yes, right.
It was. And you can imagine, like, again, I know this is in the trailer, the whole them suiting up, and again, it's kind of taking the Hardy Boys together.
And then Bridget kissing him, and
yeah, again, completely for not really, but
yeah, it's like she could have just not been in the movie for all the movie cared.
Yeah. And again, folks, I think Arnold and Jerry look awesome in their suits, and the fact they're armed with gadgets—that's cool. But again, kind of doesn't really feel like Arnold. It's cool, but it doesn't really feel like him.
Yeah.
And of course, I like her calling out the Hardy Boys for all those. So that makes it a little better.
But then, of course, this is probably one of my favorite Helga monologues in the movie. Godspeed, my steed.
Jeez. God. Oh, by the way, so speaking of Deep Voice, I mean, we know who Deep Voice is because we're the astute viewer. We know who Deep Voice is. Not to mention the fact we've seen the movie a number of times, but we know that. And I really like that Deep Voice. I love that all the information that Helga is armed with comes from a scene that we see unfold. We see Helga be informed of. Basically, she's again because Big Bob pays no mind to Helga at all. She's just in the room again, also looking at the Nancy Spumoni snow boots.
Yes.
Just want to point that out there, which I'm still convinced is like, it's got to be one of Dino's many wives, or possibly is maybe Spumoni. I don't think they ever. No, they never gave him a daughter, so I don't know. They never. I rewatched that funeral episode. They never mentioned who Nancy Spumoni was. My point. Oh, by the way, speaking of Dino Spumoni, the reason I bring it up too is that I love that we had the knockoff from that episode.
Right, yeah.
It's just the knock. Again, that was a good Dino checks out. It's a great episode. I recommend everyone. It's one of my favorite of the Dino Spumoni episodes. I recommend everyone check it out. But what I was getting at is that I love that Helga was in that scene. That's that arms are all the information that track. I love how it tracks in the movie. Okay, that's how Deep Voice knows all the stuff and tipping off very specific information.
Yeah, I mean, you're right. It's a mystery that it doesn't take a genius to figure it out or anything, but it tracks very well.
Yeah, I love he has a knockoff Tony as well. It's like not.
Oh God, yeah, exactly.
Never underestimate the power of the fake mustache, boys and girls. Never underestimate it. Oh, by the way, 2 Bartletts. I love that. Bartlett got a drink named after him.
Yeah. So I gotta say, in some ways,
how does it take him that long to piece together? Sorry, football-headed kid. How does he not put that? How many football heads are there in this show?
I was gonna say, I think in some ways Nick is almost even more antagonistic than Schnepp is, or Schnepp. Sheck.
It's not John Schnepp.
No, it's not John Schnepp. No, we love John Schnepp. We do. Could you imagine, like, I'm going to take down the neighborhood and turn it into a comic book stop, a giant comic book store? God.
Basically the Arkham City of comic book shops.
Right, yeah, basically.
So how do you feel about the Borders kind of mount? It's kind of funny, by the way. Now, it's not possible for them to have referenced this, but just to me, Phil is using like one of those kind of leathery pointers, like was used on him back in World War II. This kind of occurs to me. I know it's not like it's a kind of a common instrument to have. I'm just saying, yeah, look awfully familiar.
But I mean, I love all this stuff with the Borders Dragon. I think it's a great side plot.
It's so funny that Phil just has. Well, again, he's such a loving grandfather. Anyway,
this tunnel is so creepy.
He has no faith whatsoever in Arnold's ability. He's like, well, the short man's got a deluded plan. It's not going to work at all. So we're gonna have a backup plan.
They're gonna come up with some hackneyed scheme, and it's just gonna get him in a lot of trouble, and we're gonna be there to bail him out.
Yeah. But again, what do you think of this tunnel plot here? Basically, they blow up a big hole in the streets, so the bulldozers can't get through.
I mean, some would call it neo-terrorism, but...
Well, again, they're not trying to hurt anyone. They're just trying to...
I know. I'm just kidding.
But then again, Ernie... A lot of dynamite.
Yeah, Ernie definitely, might have some issues to work out there in the future.
Or as he puts it, we all got our little peccadillos. We all got our little peccadillos.
Oh boy!
I love this, by the way. I love it. We have fake Dino Spumoni. We have real Dino from that same episode I was mentioning, from Dino Checks Out, where we addressed all the weird Sinatra-esque phases that he went through in his career.
Mm-hmm.
It's like when Sinatra's doing the gospel section. Like he changed his look a couple times, and Dino did a rap career. Did all sorts of ridiculous. Now we have the stakeout. And as you can tell, it goes on for a while.
Yep. And like I said, I think Act 2 kind of drags a little bit.
Yeah, yeah. No, wrong, man. I will say this: the tensions. Again, the tension's kind of good in the scene. Once Arnold's dangling down, that's kind of some good tension. It doesn't really. Well, honestly, that feels a little bit like we've had tense moments like that in Hey Arnold. So like Helga, like the rafters, like in the boarding house. It feels reminiscent of Arnold. Just again, the context within this movie just feels like, do we need a spy B story?
Exactly.
So again, at least they're kind of capturing the show. So I'll give it that much. It feels like we're executing the scene as we would in Hey Arnold, but if we had a scene like this in Hey Arnold.
Right.
And of course, Big Bob looking over the folks, kids. I'm gonna share a little wisdom on you. Just give you a little nugget of wisdom here. If you ever enter a big agreement, big old beeper agreement, I know it's an outdated agreement, but just go with me. Big old contractual agreement.
Are you sure you don't want to just update this to the context of smartphones?
I'm damn good with the beepers.
All right, go with the beepers. All right, carry on. I respect that.
Folks, if you're ever entering into kind of an outdated beeper agreement of any variety, just make sure you read through the contract before you sign anything. Make sure you always read the contract before you sign. Word of wisdom.
So Dan Castellaneta is pretty funny in these moments.
Big football-headed angel.
Oh, it's an angel.
I think it's pretty safe to say.
This guy just not get it.
He just, against football-headed angel.
Like, it's funny because he wakes up and he has enough recollection to think that the angel in his dreams had a football head, as we'll see later. So I love how close Deep Voice is to Arnold and Gerald. And I love how, they kind of close in on them as the movie goes on.
Yeah. Oh, gee, Tiki, I wonder, maybe it's Stinky. Maybe that's why it's not in the poster.
Oh, God.
Huh?
I mean, that would be a really good voice job.
No, honestly, Tiki, I think we might have made the spy thing a little better.
Who?
As if it was not for who would Deep Voice be, but based instead of Bridget. What if we made it Mr. Smith? Because we never addressed that guy after his episode.
That would be fun.
He only had 2 episodes. Period. He had 3 episodes. He had 2 or 3 episodes because I think all the other episodes I'm thinking of is all in one. There's in the Gerald comes over episode, in the Gerald sleeps over episode because that's we go to dinner and Mr. Smith has his little tube system and they collect knives. That's all in one episode. So it's that and of course the running the errand for so that would have made more sense. It would have paid off something. I feel, in retrospect, looking at it that way.
Yeah, and honestly, the connection to Fuzzy Slippers just kind of feels like a throwaway line just to loosely connect it to the world. You know what I mean?
Exactly, but I get my guess
is they understand what Fuzzy Slippers is. Really, in the context of the show, Fuzzy Slippers is just some 8th grader that's going around sharing stories. He's not getting I still Dragon. I kind of this is funny. I almost feel like we're kind of hitting on the heart of the movie, even though it passed up a little while ago. But I'm sorry, Dragon. I refuse to believe that everything I know about Fuzzy Slippers that he's connected to this big spy agency. I refuse to believe it.
Yeah, because as far as we know, Fuzzy Slippers he's the original source for these urban legends, or at least a large majority of these urban legends for Gerald.
That's what I'm saying, and there's no reason to believe that he's any older than a high schooler. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
I don't know. They kept them vague, so we never know. But I like to think your version is the accurate depiction of Fuzzy Slippers. But now we have this. They're probably going to be landlocked into.
Well, like we said, if they make the Fuzzy Slippers appearance in the Jungle movie, then we'll know for sure.
Yeah.
Is Deckard a replicant or isn't he?
God. Also, of course, we had the Ballad of Murray just kind of went by here. We have Bartlett just kind of giving us the sad, tragic backstory of Murray, the bus driver. Basically, his beloved Mona left.
Again, I love how everyone has something connected to the neighborhood. It's a great plot device.
Yes, Mona left him because she couldn't deal with him having lost a limb in the war.
God.
But yeah, it's kind of cool. He's a war vet. That's kind of neat.
Which, again, kind of circles back around to the Veterans Day that we just talked about.
What I'm saying, man.
It would have been great if they would have somehow made him the guy that Martin Johansson saved.
Private Miller.
Yes. Can you imagine?
It would have been too tragic if it was. I don't know. Yes. You really think Sheck would invest in the alphabet system instead of all the numbers. You really think. But then again, I guess it's a security measure. I don't know. Oh, which, by the way, man, just because it'll happen a bunch of times in the movie, but I love Sheck's control pad. I love he just pushes I love how impractical but cool looking it is. That he has to know where those buttons are, because there's no way we can't see any of those buttons. He just pushes anywhere on this kind of the smooth surface, and cameras pop up, and he just the little red, the intense red buttons that have that really cool sound effect of oh boy, it has a sinister buttony sound effect. Rarely do you get that.
Right.
I'm saying the fact that there was no way he can operate that thing. Anyway, off the buttons onto the big prize fight here.
All right, so here comes Big Bob's big turn.
And one could say he's angry.
Oh God!
I don't necessarily think that Nick's gonna like Bob when he's angry.
I would wager to say that that Bob being angry is the equivalent to not keeping Huel happy.
Yeah, he's not reasonably happy at all. Look at Bob's wringing his neck here. It is kind of Simpsons-esque to spreading the castle and up it all in this scene.
Oh yeah.
It feels very Simpson-esque too, just the whole battle itself. Hitting each other with whisk and frying pans and everything. Of course, and this is the main reason we changed Bob's hair color, because of course now the irony is that Hulk now has gray hair. In Ragnarok, this would have been perfectly fine.
Right? Yeah, exactly.
We turned Big Bob into the Hulk, and my God, isn't it great?
It works so well. I mean, I love how they actually kind of build up to it, he becomes more animalistic as the movie goes on.
Little nitpick here. That fridge would not knock him out that way.
Right.
I'm just saying, it's the angle. They couldn't have moved him over to the other side so we can do that. They had to put him the most inconvenient. It's a reflection. It's one of those reflection things. Oh crap! We animated it the wrong way. Think anyone's gonna notice? Nah. Bob's is possibly dead in the background there. See, folks, that was the R-rated cut. It's like on the commentary of Shark Tale when the directors they joke that there was an R-rated version where we're with the Chris. Oh, never mind this. When the Luca character got killed off, it was it's a nightmare anyway. Yes, big moment here. Again, Sheck coming in, he's going to own the scene here. Again, he's so sinister in the scene. I love that the evidence is here. If you really look at it, you see this whole room is styled after the Sheck family, in the Von Sheck family in the tomato incident.
Right.
So again, I love that history comes into play here, and I love that he has a grudge against this neighborhood. So I love that it is suiting his interest, but you wonder, why on earth would he turn a neighborhood into a mall? Why would he do that? And you get a sense.
Because he's got to have money.
True, but also he has a vendetta. He's got a vengeance and a vendetta against these guys. Against the history.
Honestly, I think it's a little forced, but I'll give it to them.
I'm just saying it kind of I don't know, by no means does it fix the whole how's he by the neighborhood plot, but it's the fact that hey, it kind of understands why he's targeting the neighborhood.
I guess, but like I said, I still think it kind of maybe if they would have built it up a little bit more, I don't know.
I'll give you that, Tiki. We had another scene with Sheck, we probably could have fleshed that out more. I'll give you that.
I'm saying if Sheck would have been more involved in the history of the town and everything like that.
That's fair, but then you have to do a lot of retro. Yeah, but you have a lot of retroactive stuff in that case too. Okay, we got to write. Basically, we got to do a Tommy Elliott on Sheck. Well, oh yeah, he was there since the very beginning. God. Bruce always had a friend.
I don't think this Sheck is bad enough that he needs to be Tommy Ellioted.
That's what I'm saying. So that's probably why they kind of keep it as is. But also, I love the device here. It's just going to kind of inform as this act's going to continue forward here. I love how Shek is kind of the video, the security system is his undoing. I love how they can get a tape of him burning the tomato document. Not only getting the document, getting him doing something very untoward during the document. It's always such kind of a sinister, kind of cinematic moment where, like, you have the intense red lighting of the lighter just kind of burning into a crisp and ashes, and it's like again, everything they need is in the palm of his hands, and it goes up in smoke. I mean, I thought it was a great scene. Again, this hoisting on his own petard. I love how that, of course, comes back with Shek vision later on.
Oh yeah, oh yeah.
Love how all that kind of comes together.
So, like I said, as we're going through the movie, Arnold's getting closer and closer to No Voice in kind of a ridiculous sort of way.
And again, folks, this is the most Watergate-esque scene here because it's in a parking garage.
Yes.
Well, I just wanted to point that out there. Of course, parking garages and guys named Deep Voice.
Oh, I really like how this moment's played out.
It's a really snazzy belt. I wanted to say that. Lou Rawls, again, they probably couldn't have, that was with the budget for this movie, they probably couldn't afford Lou Rawls, but either words is like, yeah, good Harvey. Yeah, Harvey voiced, usually when we hear Harvey, he's voiced by the wonderful Lou Rawls.
You know what? He has some pretty funny, like, one-off moments, though, that I'll give him credit for, like that one just there.
He does, again, but doesn't really say anything, which is kind of, but you're right, I'm sorry, yeah, he's like, a great silent gag right there, yeah. One of my favorite deliveries from Lou Rawls ever was in the Halloween episode.
Yeah.
Where basically he's calling Bob after it looks like aliens are invading. He says, "You all right, Bob?" So they basically say, "Yeah, we're gonna fight him." Yeah, right, Bob. I'm ready to kick some alien butt. Just love the way he says, "Yeah, you betcha, Bob. I'm ready to kick some." He's just so still sounds so friendly, but he sounds so amped up at the same time. Just Lou does the delivery.
So this is a lesson for all supervillains out there, folks. Don't go gloating with an evil speech. We see it thwart people time and time and time again. No evil monologues, Dragon. Repeat after me. No evil monologues.
He starts monologuing.
Right?
I will say this. I gotta give him props on this, though. He does have like a self-cleaning camera in the back there because Gum was he's got a good security system. Of course, it kind of bites him in the end, but it's a good security system. What do you think about the intensity of the eyes whenever the animate Shek, getting really mad? Like he almost has like a Hulk Adams.
He has a great design to him. Like on surface level, he feels like he's just kind of like the stereotypical corporate greedy businessman, but really he's he's kind of more of an exaggerated cartoon version of that, which I think works really well.
Yeah. Now here's coming up here, folks, is the big is one of two scenes within the film that is like the most hyped up going into this film. This is basically where they showed too much of their hand, to be quite honest, to be quite frank. And again, folks, this is what really hurt the return of this movie, is that the scenes they wanted to see most were in the trailers.
Yep.
That's a problem. That's a problem we deal with other movies. I'm just saying when this movie is quite literally built upon the back of those two moments to get butts in seats, you don't want to put that in the trailer. And again, that's half the reason I saw the movie, is to see where this was going, and it just pretty much I saw what I saw.
Like all the reason I saw the movie in theaters is this right here. I mean, come on, this is like the Ross and Rachel of Nickelodeon.
Exactly, and essentially, for my example for this is the Krusty Krab 2 of Hey Arnold, the movie.
Oh God, that's pretty
And
bad.
again, Tiki, to an extent, I do view it very much like the Krusty Krab 2, because at the same time, you could look at this, again, of course, this was Jungle Movie notwithstanding, bear in mind. This is just Jungle Movie notwithstanding. At the time this came out, we had no idea. But you could look at this, not counting Jungle Movie, as the final Hey Arnold song, because it is kind of like as ramped up as you can get for like Saving the Neighborhood. We had a lot of property damage by the end of it, and of course, we kind of leave Arnold and Helga. It does feel like they're kind of going that route. Like this is like intended to be it almost feels like it was intended to be the last one, even though of course
it feels like a step up from where the characters were, but it doesn't feel satisfying enough. I feel like that's the problem.
The big problem is we do a big undo button at the end of it. That's the big problem. It feels
the big undo button, to tell you the truth, Dragon, it's as natural as they can get it for wanting to do an undo, but why do we need the undo? That's the problem.
because they sold it as much as they could here. And I got to tell you, I mean, as much as I don't like kind of like, you're right, T. They did the best they could with it, but it's an impossible situation to write yourself
What do you
out.
think of the moment itself? Because I think in the moment it plays really well.
I think Helga's side of this I think is very well acted. I think it's really strong. And Arnold's initial reaction I do feel is accurate because again she's throwing a lot.
That's what I'm saying. Like Arnold is just like whoa, this is going like way too fast here.
That's true, but at the same time, the romantic in me, the optimist in me, would like to think that Arnold would. Again, he need to process it, but I'd like to think, I think could receive it just a smidge better. I don't know. I mean, it is a lot to process. That's why I'm mixed on it. I'm mixed on Arnold's side of it here. It just feels like again, big opportunity, and we just kind of like we timed it so poorly. That's what bugs me about that. Again, we can't get an honest reading of how Arnold would react to this because again. He's got a lot on his mind right now. We got to save the neighborhood in like less than an hour. So again, it's that I always wish it was better if we timed that moment better. I think it would have satisfied a lot more people. I don't know.
Yeah, I hear you.
This doesn't feel like it felt like we built this moment up so much and we just don't give it its due because we got to pretend it didn't happen. Because okay, we'll table this and okay, we're untabling it, so we're just gonna forget about it completely. That's just how it goes, really.
I mean, they're convenient excuses like, oh, it's in the heat of the action. We say crazy things in the heat of the action.
Yeah, and they have like roughly like 20 minutes left, and I think I love that they kind of give. I forget what amount of time they get, but it's kind of times with how much time the movie has left, and I kind of like that device.
Yeah. Of course, I always like when movies kind of do that in real time. It makes it very exciting.
Yeah.
No, I think overall, as we're heading into Act 3 with all this, with the bus stuff and everything, I think Act 3 is probably the best of the 3 acts, Dragon, because it's just for all for all kind of the hoopla about like the changes at the last minute to make this a theatrical movie. This bus chase is kind of like the centerpiece of the action and everything, and it's incredibly well done, I think.
14 minutes. That's how much time they have. That's how much time the movie has left, I guess.
Okay.
Unless you sprout wings and fly, Chester.
Oh God.
Wait a minute. Oh my God. Wait. I think it's a Pigeon Man reference.
Yeah, you just got that. Yeah.
God, I mean, I knew it was familiar. I was just the name.
I mean, at least I would hope it's a Pigeon Man reference.
Yeah, I mean, the bird's name is Chester, isn't it?
Pigeon Man reference, then it's like a weird coincidence.
That's the thing. I mean, yeah, the bird's name was Chester in Pigeon Man. Right? Yeah, again. They worked it all in there.
Oh God.
And of course, now Murray is motivated so he can save Mona, save where Mona's living. And again, it's like everyone is still in the. This is what bugs me about it, Tiki. Again, this is not the whole logistics of it. This simple fact, Tiki. People are still in their homes.
Yeah.
As in, these guys are ready to
bulldoze. Yeah, everyone's still in their homes, and the bulldozers.
There's no way they can do this. It makes no sense.
No, you're right. You're right, Dragon. I'm not going to fight you on that. It's all very silly.
That's what I'm saying. That's the element of this movie just does not hold up. Like,
I'll give it as we're saying, folks, there is a lot to like about this movie in terms of individual elements, but it's kind of a mess in other elements.
But back to stuff we like. Of course, we have the how you take the high road and I take the low road. Oh
God, that's wonderful.
That's ingrained in my memory. But of course, the big spectacle here, of course, is Murray has been knocked out after that awesome bus jump.
Mm-hmm.
So now it's up to Gerald to save that. I do like that we give Gerald some good stuff to do here. Again, aside from just being the side character, Gerald does have a big moment to save the day here. I think that's really appropriate for that character. So I'm very much approving the whole bus payoff of Gerald. Yeah,
for sure.
Kind of brings back the whole the optimism debate here. Basketball, it's a flat ball. No, it's not.
Yeah,
I still wish the ball
the basketball thing was kind of like that was a surprising sort of writing thing for me at the end, where it's like, oh yeah, they're still talking about the basketball. Nice, I see what you did there, movie.
I hate that. Yeah, at the same time, I still hate the nitpick, but the ball does completely pop, which does bug me. I just wish it was stayed flat, and it would have made the debate a little stronger.
Right, right.
But again, it completely pops. So literally, that is a flat ball. There's no debate around that. Of course, there's the we couldn't afford Mark Hamill. I guess we got got someone else to do the hobo character. The get out of my house.
Oh God.
He has moved from the subway though, so I guess he's moving up in the world too. Good for him. Here we go. You take the high road, and I'll take the low road. Oh God, the repulse arena.
It's really exciting. Like all the camera angles, the scale of the freeway.
Yeah. And again, we crank up Shek as menacing as we can without, obviously giving him a gun or anything.
Oh God,
yeah, basically, but
Spielberg would just hate that, wouldn't he?
Sure, but we're kind of going by the Scooby-Doo rules of like, we can push him, but we can't actually arm him. It's kind of like we've always, it's sort of like as far as you can push, because right now he's willing to kill these guys by blowing up the bridge. And again, he knows it's not going to end well for him, so he's more than willing to do that. And again, I love that Nick kind of has a moment of pause. There's just like 10 to 15 to life. There's a big moment here. Again, checking if they're on familiar locations too. Rhonda's place with the little terrace. It was kind of nice to see that for a brief moment. Again, history, folks. So yeah, at 7 a.m. Let's just murder a bunch of people. Yeah.
I know, right?
It's like, no, we can't blow
up. Construction workers are pissed, man. They want to get the job done. God damn it!
They have unions started.
And of course, Phil with his ever-present bathroom problems.
God. And again, the Tiki, I love when you can do this. I love the rarity where Phil and Big Bob are on the same page.
Yes. I think this is one of my favorite payoffs in the whole movie is this Big Bob thing right here.
It's like the old Tom and Jerry palling around together type dynamic.
Yeah, but better than the movie.
Yes, better than the movie.
I just want to establish that every time you make that connection.
It's not the Richard Kind version. Not that there's anything we have against Richard Kind, just not as Tom.
Oh God!
That is big. Again, Tiki, this big moment here, and Jim Lang's score is excellent in this scene. This is what I'm talking about. Jim Lang, I'm so glad he went out of pocket for this movie. It really bit him in the end because, of course, the dwindling box office return. But at the same time, it gives the movie that cinematic flair in these moments here, where it's like that big, it's the biggest build you could have.
Sure.
It's an intense scene. Again, we do kind of it's kind of the rewatch here. Kind of agree. It's kind of like Duel, and you know what scene I'm talking about from Duel.
Oh yeah.
We kind of mirror a bit. We kind of mirror mirror a big moment from Duel when the bus kind of wrecks here. I think we used that Jamaican guy in the beach episode in summer, the summer vacation episode. Same thing with Phil's hair. Phil has the Jamaican hair.
Come on, man! I just want to murder people and force them out of their homes.
But again, how awesome is this? Grandma just she's just taking out all these.
Oh, she's great. She's great.
God, awesome. And I love that there's this beautiful delivery here. Where's Gerald pops Arnold's bubble here, and the Spencer Klein is the great delivery there. Is when Gerald, she's going back to jail. I know. it's just that I know of it's like Gerald has to pop the bubble. Yeah, I know she's going back to jail, but again, it's part of the course at this point. She'll break out again.
Right.
That's how it goes. And there's the Duel moment I'm talking about here. And again, Tiki, I love less about the music. What I love. It's the quiet of the neighborhood here. I love the tension. But again, we know
bus is like the center point of the whole movie.
I know. Again, it's like kind of it's kind of the it's the hope. The bus kind of represents hope within this film of it's the hope we can get from point A to point B to kind of get the gears in the motion to save the neighborhood. So with this thing destroyed and in shambles, okay, I guess the dream is dead.
Right.
Of course, Arnold emerges with the tape. But again, I just love that quiet that sweeps over the neighborhood. Oh no, our main character might have died.
Oh yeah, right. But no, I hear you.
I know he's fine. I'm just saying. It's a nice little moment.
Now that would have been the R-rated version. Well, Arnold saved the neighborhood, but at what cost?
Now, Tiki, my gadget love. I got to tell you, my favorite gadget.
The VCR. Yeah, I knew you'd love the VCR.
No, the VCR is great, but that's not it. No, this is the VCR and extension cord. I'm talking about the little grappling device she has on her wrist.
Right,
I love
right.
it so much.
Again with the
Okay,
monologues,
go,
folks.
Oh yeah, and again, it's such a great visual. Like he's the devil. It's like he's burning it. He's burning the contract. It's evil Reagan.
He's just lit so menacingly.
Yep, and Tiki, I really love this comeuppance for Shek here, where we have this great shot coming where Shek is basically the tires are taken off his car, and basically Arnold and Gerald they're right above the hood, and the idea is like he's just screwed every turn. Like this neighborhood wants him, and just the fact that the neighborhood took him down here, like even in the small ways here, like in the people, his enemies are right there in front of him. Like he thinks he's gonna run him over. He can. They're so love that confident look they're giving him. It's such a Hardy Boys moment of victory for them, and of course. Grandma getting her last licks in there, of course, with the your tires are gone. Guess who did that?
Oh yeah.
And of course, we take away from the mess a little bit. We do kind of the classic, kind of the face plant thing here. Was you kind of give him the cartoon teeth as he kind of splats against the window. But okay, here we go, folks.
But you know what? We couldn't kill him in real life, but we sure found a way to metaphorically kill him.
God. God, my God. A punch from Big Bob. And I hope Stinky comedy. And Stinky, he deserves to be on this poster. I think it's one of the great lines of the movie.
That's what I'm saying. It's honestly, is Stinky even in the movie? Like, even in the fucking background?
Stinky, I love this. Stinky has like the perfect review of the movie. Just saying, oh man, fist fights, buses, it's all so exciting. But right here, Dan, this is the image I'm building up here. This little changes
this is the perfect. Like I said, it's like a metaphorical death.
It is. Just that crack shot will always be ingrained in my memory, Tiki, of like the three Sheks on screen at the same time saying change is good, then it kind of dying there. It's like such an ominous note to end on Shek. But you're right. It's like it's the death of this future idea. It's like this. Basically, we're not going to pervert the neighborhood with like kind of destroying what kind of made it special, destroying kind of again. It's not about the death of the neighborhood. It's about destroying the lives that these people have had in this neighborhood. I think they zeroed on it so well with that image of like, no, the people are going to endure, not the threat of the future.
Right.
Closing up. Of course, Mona and Murray. She got past the leg. It's a happy ending after all, kids.
Of course, Mona voice fight the great Calf Sorcy.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, Dragon, this is a problem.
That's what I'm saying. I mean, this is a huge one for the show.
It's a major problem. I mean, it's so much of a problem that they're basically gonna have to retcon this in the Jungle movie.
That's what I'm saying. This is the Krusty Krab 2 only. You still can't get the argument that Krusty. See, the only difference is,
as I said, the moment itself plays well. I think the problem with this moment. The problem with the rooftop moment is the aftermath that we get here. It's just like she's so freaking thrilled because things get to go back to status quo, and we, the audience, are just left completely unsatisfied.
No! Yeah, it's oh, it's frustrating.
Yeah. Well, we have the Jungle movie, goddammit. And they can't fuck it up twice, can they?
Oh, no. They'll be fine. They're a constant bunch of storytellers to you.
Oh, God.
Again, this one time, I think this is a callback I'm not crazy about, Eugene, where I just feel like, I think if he he had the ultimate accent that kind of blew up Shek's, Shekovision, I think that would have served Eugene better than. I mean, it's an okay hero mode. It just feels more like an Eugene's thing. I don't think it's the note we should have ended on.
Like we needed but I was hungry.
Yeah, that's what it feels like, and I appreciate those moments. But I mean, it kind of makes us end on that singing note with Eugene. Where honestly, I would have respected the movie more if we just ended on Arnold and Gerald having their full circle kind of basketball. See, I think that would.
I agree. I do not like the Eugene ending.
See what I mean? It's just that.
Yeah. All right, and we end to the angelic vocals of Lil Romeo.
Oh God! And again, this was also, and folks in the marketing too. Like this, of course, was another huge element of marketing.
Well, thankfully, after this song, we get a nice kind of like orchestrated rendition of the main theme song, so that's nice.
But again, I hate to linger on this because we're kind of at the end here. Additionally, with the Eugene thing, after the Eugene, we end on an image of the city, and here my issue with that Tiki is that we should focus on the neighborhood. The whole movie's been about the neighborhood, yet the last shot of the movie's on the city.
Right. The city, which is kind of like, ironically enough, been the threat in so many terms.
I mean, Tiki, I'm not crazy. That seems.
No,
right?
I agree with you. The ending of this movie is very off.
Yeah. But and folks, that's kind of where we leave the Harold movie in many respects. It's a mixed bag.
Yeah.
So I guess we should start kind of some final thoughts, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, Dragon, this is one of those things where it's like every time I sit down to watch this movie, I want to like it more than I end up liking it.
Yeah, I'm with you there.
And it's not to the same level of The Lost World Jurassic Park, where I want to like at least marginally give it a chance, and then every time I watch it, it's like crushing disappointment. It's not there by any means, because there is a lot to like about it, but I don't know. I just feel like this... I honestly feel like it would have worked better as a 40-minute, kind of like 2 20-minute episodes, like hour-long TV movie. I really feel like that's what they were going for. And so it's just sort of this weird enigma of a Nickelodeon movie where, it's not even something that was really supposed to be theatrical in the first place, and now we're getting something that was supposed to be theatrical as a TV movie. I don't know. It's a weird world we're living in, isn't it, Dragon?
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, that's about all I have to say about it. Of course, it's always a pleasure to revisit, though, Dragon, because in spite of all its faults, I feel like this came out in a very key time with Lilo and Stitch and the Scooby-Doo movie, where... like 2002 was kind of a transformative year for me. Of course, the Spider-Man movie was that year as well. Like that was like the Spider-Man movie came out like a month before this. So it was a transformative summer, Dragon, and I feel like that will kind of make it, like that's really what I'll hold this movie to, is just kind of the nostalgia I have attached to it, not so much the merits of the actual film itself.
Right. At the end, for me, I appreciate the cinematic scope applied to Arnold. Just kind of the cell line of like it's the Arnold movies. Looking at it on that level, it's like I appreciate the cinematic scope, and that's when the movie's hitting me right where I want it to hit me in those moments. Where it's purely when it is what the original intent was. Where is Arnold saving the neighborhood, and we have just we get to kind of bask in like kind of a more kind of a bigger than the TV screen scope of that simple story. And again, the beginning and at the very end, honestly, that's where we're hitting that note the best. And again, Act 1 has a lot of good stuff, especially with Shek. And again, as we've kind of gone over, it's post Peanuts. I don't mind I don't mind lifting the old plots, because again, we're referencing some of the best episodes in that regard. We're pulling from all over. With those references. But again, my issue is, it's not the most the most creative of issues with it, because I think we all can kind of agree on this. The neighborhood, in respect to mainly the younger characters, but neighborhood just doesn't. It's a shame the neighborhood doesn't have a bigger role outside of our borders and our main three characters. Everyone else is just kind of. They're just, again, it's a story about the neighborhood, yet all of our familiar characters, aside from Mr. Green, really, we don't really get to spend.
Like, oddly enough, Mr. Green is kind of like the, the Betty DeVille, where he stands out more in the movie than he does in the show a lot of the time.
Yeah. And again, while the history, the historical aspect of the plot is strong and the villain is really cool, it feels like an overshoot with a blockbuster spy vibe applied to it. That's what a movie feels like. It feels like, hey, we're doing Harold, so we got to spice it up a little bit. We got to add character, we got to add drama, we got to add this stuff, and we got like spies. What's popular? Spies.
Dragon that needs stuff.
Stuff. And you know what else it needs? It needs more stuff. So my point is, it's a bit of an overshoot with a blockbuster spy vibe, and in the end, it runs out of steam at points, and I think that shows. And then I missed the character opportunities, as I mentioned with Eugene and with the neighborhood. I feel on the whole, though, again, to end on some positive stuff here, I think the humor is true to the show and true to the characters when they do show up. It's not bad. I don't want to make clear, as harsh as it might sound like we're being into this movie, we're looking for the good stuff, folks. We're looking for the good stuff. I think we're making a fair case on both fronts. It's not bad. But compared to the series were rare. It's such a rarity. Like when you get an episode that's under par, underwhelming. I think this fits into it's right above the underwhelming. It's like right in the middle. That's where this movie lies.
It's smack dab in the middle, quality wise, of the series, Dragon. I think you hit it right on the money.
Because again, we can do so much more in 20 minutes than we did with this, than we did with the roughly like an hour, 15
exactly.
minutes.
That's when you look at it that way. That's very much a problem.
Yeah, exactly. You imagine we would basically
Pigeon Man.
Like you imagine again, Tiki. Essentially, however the breakdown is, again, like I could have sworn my research was 3 episodes. Whatever that breakdown is, it doesn't matter. The point is, a couple episodes. Again, as the original kind of idea is, we're going to string together a couple episodes. String them together. You imagine it'd be the quality of 2 really good Hey Arnold episodes. Basically, you get a journal on the big screen.
Sure.
And we didn't get that, and that's why I think a lot of people are disappointed. But I mean, hey, again, it was learning experience that hopefully they're gonna take some cues from when they do it all again with the Jungle Movie.
All right, folks. Well, thanks so much. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, I'm saying that's Hey Arnold, the movie. Yeah.
All right, thanks so much for listening, folks. I feel like this was a very fun conversation, Dragon. Next time on Hey Arnold Month, leading up to the Jungle Movie, we'll be talking about the first of the 2 Arnold's Parents episodes, appropriately titled Parents' Day.
Yeah.
So, the one with the orphan boy.
Stella!
All right. So in the meantime, folks, thanks so much for watching, and see you next time. It was the summer of Six Flags and the Scooby-Doo movie.